Everyone, Delta One here, and let me turn this down. Turn down the fans. I don't actually want to because it's actually pretty hot. I don't even know if the floor vents back here even work. Good golly molly, they do. Basically, in this video, or in this vlog, um, I was asked, basically, I was asked if I could explain the whole, if I'll show you, the whole, the transmission temperature deal. And here's the thing with that. I am going to be going to the Home Depot. Let me explain that. This will be in no way a reference or anything. This is just basically you can understand why transmission temperature is so important and how many things can affect it. I'm pretty sure obvious people know that towing will change the temperature of your transmission because it's working harder. On this truck, it has active aero. In short, what they call active aero is your grill shutters. That's not the actual definition of what active aero is, but that is what Ram uses as an active aero. Now you do have an aero for your front splitter on trucks and cars that have for economy purposes, but in conjunction with that, we have grill shutters in our trucks. This grill shutter has a really weird algorithm for determining when it should be open and when it should be closed. I don't know what it goes by, but essentially it doesn't really reflect transmission temperature. It really reflects how the coolant temperature is, and I think it has something to do also with whether or not the AC is turned on or not. Again, you'd have to read the theory of operation for the grill shutters to know that. But essentially every vehicle has a different operating temperature that the manufacturer says, okay, this is the temperature that the transmission can run at. Well, essentially, no matter what vehicle it is, there's always a temperature at which the vehicle cannot exceed in order to be able to operate flawlessly. Basically, you don't want the transmission fluid to be... Okay, I just had to remember where I was going. You don't want the transmission fluid to be 200 and something degrees, or even 200 degrees roughly. Even though transmission fluid is not essentially water, 200 degrees is really hot, especially for clutch materials. And you have to keep in mind your clutches in your transmission are designed to slip to begin with, so they're already going to be pretty hot. Well, the hotter you make that fluid, the thinner it makes it, just like in your engine. The only difference is that in an engine, the oil is sort of specifically designed to get thinner as the truck, or car, could you please go? It's designed to get thinner as the engine gets hot, because it has to operate at a different, operate at different levels. So it has a cold temperature and it has a hot temperature. If you notice, transmission fluids don't have that kind of a temperature. Whereas the engine has a cold rating and a hot rating. Well, your engine oil is designed to be two different viscosities. When signal, my God, it's designed to actually change. Well, your transmission does change, sort of, but it doesn't change in viscosity all too much. However, it does get thinner and it does expand like any other fluid does when it gets hot. Well, even though the viscosity doesn't essentially, I say essentially because in a way it does, in a way it doesn't. When it gets hot and it gets thin, it makes your transmission slip. Now, I said before, your transmission is designed to slip. It is. All transmissions are designed to slip, even manual transmission. That's how you get going. You can't take an engine that's revving at 2,000 RPM at 0 miles an hour and expect to be going 20 miles an hour when your engine's rotating a lot faster than that. So again, you're slipping the engine and transmission together in order to go. The only difference is in a manual transmission, you've only got one clutch and you're slipping it. In an automatic transmission, every gear has several clutches in it, or clutch packs, if you will. Excessive slipping is what you feel when essentially your transmission's going out. But that isn't always the case. Your transmission can slip because of, like I said, your transmission fluid's too burnt. It no longer has its lubricating abilities. It's letting the transmission fluid get too hot. All the way up to you have a solenoid that's bad and it's not allowing sufficient pressure to go to that specific clutch pack that's keeping it from actually compressing that drum to the actual output shaft or input shaft, or depending on how it's made. Essentially, on our trucks, we have a thermal valve or thermal block on the Rams. I don't know how the other manufacturers do it, but I'm pretty sure they have something closer to it. We have a thermal valve. Basically, its job is to make sure the transmission stays at a certain temperature. Okay. No, I do not mean like a thermostat. It's a thermal valve. Essentially, a thermostat opens at a particular temperature and then closes. That's basically what a thermostat is. Now, a thermal valve works in essentially the same way, but it's at a higher range. Essentially, you saw it on my truck before when I uploaded a video where the truck would sit there and run at one point 107 degrees and it'll run at another point at 190. It's got a higher range. Basically, a thermostat is set at a specific temperature or designed to be at a specific temperature at a specific pressure. Well, essentially, the transmission isn't under that kind of pressure as the engine coolant is. So the thermal valve works on exactly what that says. It works off of a thermal temperature of the transmission fluid. So when the transmission fluid gets to a certain temperature, it opens up. But that's not due to pressure, it's due to actual temperature. Whereas like your coolant in your engine operates off pressure. That's why you have a valve on your radiator that keeps the pressure lower, or is it higher? Yeah, it keeps the pressure higher, or it allows it. I can't think straight right now. I just got from underneath the truck. But essentially, it changes the print. What are you doing? I don't know what he's doing. But essentially, it changes the properties of it, allowing the coolant to boil at a higher pressure, at a higher temperature. So I think it is higher pressure. Well, your transmission doesn't do that. Your transmission can't afford to basically have more pressure than the pump puts on it. So essentially, this thermal valve will always be closed when you start the engine up, all the way up to its maximum temperature. Once it gets to its maximum temperature, I don't know how it works, but I know that it plays hell on the thermodynamics of the transmission. Now, my issue that I had in the beginning was, and there you go. There you go. The thermodynamics, that was a mega cab. So clearly, people that do that, all right, now some people that have small vehicles that do that, you can kind of sympathize with them. Not saying they're right, I'm just saying that you can kind of sympathize with them in the understanding of that their vehicle's small and they could make that. But in an essence like that, that's a mega cab Ram 2500. There is no way that truck was going to pull out trying to remember where I had to go. Oh yeah. There's no way that truck was going to be able to pull out and be in front and be able to clear me. There was no way. And that is, which is sad, because most people with trucks, like this guy here, knows what their trucks are capable of. I mean, trucks are designed to tow. Even the fuel efficient ones are designed to tow. So essentially we do have a better takeoff than a car does, but most people don't understand how that works in their truck. So they misjudge when they should take off, and stuff like that happens. But essentially in my case, what happened was I didn't have enough fluid in the transmission. So as long as the transmission was cool, it was fine, because it was shifting when it was supposed to shift, because the fluid was getting everywhere it should and the pressure was where it should. But when the transmission allowed the temperature to get up to 190, because it didn't have enough fluid inside of it to, to keep itself going through the radiator for cooling, the transmission fluid thinned out. So when I was at that higher speed, the transmission started to surge. Well, once I got at a slower speed, it did not matter, because now the transmission fluid was so hot and so thin that it wouldn't even operate at a lower speed. So when I had to pull over, that's what basically turning the car off, turn it back on, turn the car off, turn it back on does. Basically, even if your temperature is where it should be, there's a set temperature that it will have to come down to before it'll reset. In some cases, pulling the battery or turning the car off and turning it back on, especially with these computer operated ones, you can turn it on, and as long as it's between that threshold, it will run, which is essentially what I had to do to get my truck to drive. This video actually went a lot longer than what I thought it was going to be. I wasn't intending to go to Home Depot, but oh Jesus. But for work, I had to get a couple pipe fittings, because I have to replace some relief valves. Oh Jesus Christ. Some ammonia relief valves. And it's on the relief valve side of the system, so it can be stainless, but we don't have stainless 1.5 inch fittings. Like I think I need like a 3 might be too long, like a 2 inch long 1.5 inch nipple and 2 unions. Well, I need 1, 2, and I think I need 4 of all of it, 2 of all of it. So 2 inch nipple, 2 1.5 inch nipples, 2 1.5 inch unions, and I think 2 inch or 2 3-inch nipples. I don't know. I may get them both. I don't know. I don't know. But we're about to leave. Well, I'm about to leave. I'm about to go in here. Oh, by the way, if you don't look back at what you drive, you bought the wrong vehicle.